If you would know that your punch will kill, would you land that? Yes. Why? If the person isn't ready to die, he has nothing to do in the ring. Vyacheslav Datsik isn't a stranger for boxing and MMA fans. Many of you know him by his recent boxing and pop MMA fights. But I remember him from the 90s, when he broke Belarusian Crystal and became famous. Right now we consider him normal, but 20 years ago there were signs of a mental disorder. Vyacheslav Datsik was born on December 31st in 1980, in a small city called Slontsy. He was the only child in the family. Already in his early childhood, Datsik had psychological abnormalities. During his school years, they became markedly worse. Datsik regularly became the victim of taunts from high school students and had to respond with aggression. Such situations often led to fights, and even in his younger years, resulted in Datsik sustaining concussions and other serious injuries. Datsik's aggressive and inadequate behavior did not go unnoticed by special agencies. Already at school age, he was registered with the police and a psychiatric hospital. In the future, this fact would prevent him from serving in the army. Datsik dreamed of serving in the special forces. Participation in numerous street fights gave rise to a serious interest in martial arts. Datsik's basic style was Taekwondo and military hand-to-hand combat. He learned techniques from computer games and developed his strength indicators by doing kettlebell lifting. After finishing the 9th grade, Datsik entered the Slontsy Industrial Technical School, majoring in economics and accounting, but he soon abandoned his education and was expelled. During the 1998 economic crisis, he left his small motherland together with his family and moved to St. Petersburg, where he continued actively involved in sports and began his professional career as a fighter, entering the ring under the pseudonym Ginger Tarzan. Initially, Datsik fought by the rules of pankration, and similar tournaments were then held in popular restaurants and casinos in the city. His MMA debut happened in 1999 in a fight against Andrei Arlovski. Datsik rushed at his opponent as soon as the gong sounded, in a jump. Arlovski dodged it. Datsik jumped again, and even knocked the Belarusian down, but he fell down himself and then got into an uncomfortable position. Arlovski took Datsik to the guillotine. They were in that position for about a minute and a half. Datsik made scary faces, attacked with big punches, but he didn't hit anything. Arlovski had a complete advantage. It seemed that there were fighters of different levels in the octagon. The commentators laughed. Arlovski was beating Datsik so easily. The Belarusian was close to an early victory when he landed a series of punches on Datsik on the floor. The tough ginger guy survived. After a while, Arlovski decided for some reason to go for a leg lock. The attempt failed, although Datsik could not fight back. In the next attack, he threw a jab, and a few seconds later cut Arlovski down with a powerful right kick. A clean knockout. In an interview with Alexander Lyudikov, the fighter talked about this fight more informatively. "I shouldn't have even been there. I came to watch fights. I took the entrance wrong. The security started to bark at me, and I wanted to knock them out. Then Kolya pulled up. He said, 'What, you're a tough fighter?' I said, 'Sort of. Why can't you get in the ring against Arlovski? I don't have a problem.' Did I know who Arlovski was? I didn't give a shit. Someone refused to fight with him, and I came on as a substitute, just off the street, because I was pestering the guards at the entrance. So you want to say that you didn't even know that you'll fight until tournament day? Like I said, it started only because I wanted to beat the security to watch some fights. I didn't even know who Arlovski was. Kudryashov came and got me there to fight. I came, security started to talk shit, and I was ready to rumble, but ended up fighting Arlovski. It was a very difficult fight for you till the last minute. A usual fight, a usual casual boxing rumble. I was supposed to fight some Brazilian with a jiu-jitsu black belt, but he didn't get a visa, and they told me I have to fight Datsyuk. I didn't even care. I was choking him, beating him down, and then he got a lucky punch. He said that he was choking you and beating you up easily. Choking me is no fun at all. In Taekwondo, when we trained with Alexander Karasev, my first Taekwondo coach, we had a ritual of initiation into the group. A person enters, breathes quickly and does half squats. Then 2 people tighten his neck with a rope. And our task is to see who can hold on longer. In the semifinals, he faced Armenian athlete Martin Malkasian. The fight ended 1 minute after the starting gong. Martin succeeded in a chokehold. Many experts argued after this fight that Datsyuk simply did not understand anything about physiology, seriously believing that his neck could withstand such pressure for 1 minute. Datsyuk's next opponent in December of '99 was Stanislav Nishuk on M1 Grand Prix. He was an upcoming fighter back then, but years later he became a famous fighter from St. Petersburg. Nishuk from the opening seconds showed his sambo base and put Datsyuk down. Datsyuk fought back, but the opponent caught him and tried to make an Achilles tendon impingement. But Vyacheslav caught him on the same submission and ended the fight. In the semifinal, he fought Vadim Kuvatov. Datsyuk stood motionless for a couple of seconds and then went for the takedown. Vadim adapted well and put the choke on Datsyuk immediately. Datsyuk got out, went for a ground and pound and heel twist. The referee made the fighters stand up. The second round started. Datsyuk went for a takedown again and was successful taking his back for a rare naked choke, but Vadim survived. After multiple grappling exchanges, and then Vyacheslav went to knock Vadim out against the fence. Kuvatov survived again and grabbed Datsyuk to throw him down, breaking Datsyuk's neck. The fight is over. If someone tries to poke me in the eye, I'll break his finger. I'll poke him in the balls. I will cut his lip. If someone has bad intentions toward me, he will get twice harder reactions from me. On the 28th of April 2000, Datsyuk defeated Andrei Budnik at Pankration World Championship. In the course of the fight, Vyacheslav received a warning for grabbing the opponent's hair. After that, he began to behave inadequately, jerking his arms and legs indiscriminately in an attempt to strike. However, one of them hit the target and the opponent gave up. During the exit from the hall, Datsyuk's legs became twisted and he fell down, unable to keep his balance. This footage was then often shown in reports about him. On February 8, 2001, Datsyuk met with Vitaly Shkraba. After the second caution for pressing on his eyes, Vyacheslav was disqualified, but he disagreed with the decision and began to argue with the judge. 2 months later, at the first M1 Russia vs. the World tournament, Datsyuk faced Patrick de Witt of the Netherlands, who he defeated in the first round with a chokehold. On December 8, 2001, at the next Pankration tournament, Datsyuk faced Ramazzi Korkelia. The footage from that fight was also featured in reports about Vyacheslav. During the fight, Datsyuk attacked his opponent's groin, and after it was declared a technical defeat, he, disagreeing with the decision, tried to continue the fight. He punched the Georgian fighter in the groin, and the doctors came up to help. And then I saw Datsyuk coming in to land extra punches on him. I started to wrestle him, and he put him on his back. Not all of Datsyuk's fights made it into the official statistics. For example, his fight which took place on July 1, 2001, at the Cup of Russia in Dagestan, once again Vyacheslav did not accept the defeat and began to argue with the referee. If he wasn't in jail all those years, he would fight as much as Olenek and Shlemenko. According to statistics, during the first 7 years of his fighting career, Datsyuk had 26 fights in MMA and kickboxing, 12 wins, 14 losses. And these statistics may not include all of Vyacheslav's fights, because in the first half of the 90s, people did not know that there were statistical databases in MMA. And even if they did know, they didn't attach much importance to them. During his active sports career, scandals followed Dacek outside the ring as well. In the early 2000s, the red-headed Tarzan got on MTV, taking part in the show Fight Club, where fights between musicians were staged. On that show, which Dacek disrupted, the Opytya Mosheniki and Leningrad fought to win. But things didn't go to the organizers' plan, when the professional fighter decided to mock the other contestants by offering them to fight. By May 2006, Dacek had already started to get fat. He was opposed by Roman Savochka, as Slava had lost twice before 2001. This time, Ginger Tarzan was throwing in his opponent's face and pressed him with his weight. Savochka looked one weight class below him. One cannot say that Dacek was in the lead. He often missed, and several times he was helped by the referee, lifting him up from the ground. These were the rules. As a result, Vyacheslav won by knockout. He threw one heavy jab, then another. Savochka fell to his knees. Then Dacek landed several punches to the kidneys, and the referee stopped the fight. Because of the regular defeats, Ginger Tarzan abandoned his sports career and turned to crime, becoming a member of a series of robberies of cell phone stores in 2007. The bandits were acting very fast and cocky. One of them was especially angry. A big ginger guy. He came in. A fucking big guy. He smiled and said, "Hello, it's me again," and pointed with a pistol. Who would rob the same store for the 6th time? During the trial, which lasted 2 years, Dacek did everything in his power to be declared mentally ill, schizophrenic, and went for compulsory treatment in a specialized clinic. This helped him avoid a real prison term. And after some time, he ended up in a regular hospital in the village of Drosnosle in the Leningrad region, from which he successfully escaped in 2010. From this point on, Dacek's adventures take on an international character. Realizing that he is wanted all over the country, Ginger Tarzan takes an extreme measure: escape from Russia. He illegally crosses the Norwegian border in the hope of obtaining political asylum. At the same time, one of the longest and loudest conflicts in the history of Russian MMA, the internet confrontation between Dacek and Alexander Emelianenko, breaks out. What Dacek is capable of and what type of person he is will be shown to us by Sambo champion, MMA fighter Alexander Emelianenko. Tell us what type of person Dacek is. Dacek isn't a human and isn't even a sportsman. He is just a little thug who got attention. He never showed any results. I want to tell that he can't be considered as a professional athlete. Even his friends turn their back on him. There are some rumors that he doesn't feel pain and has extraordinary power. Upon arrival in Norway, Dacek made the major mistake of turning himself into the police station with a loaded Makarov pistol, which was the reason for the arrest of the intruder. After studying the case, Norwegian experts conducted a psychiatric examination of Dacek, which declared him sane. Dacek was sentenced to 8 months in prison for illegal possession of firearms, but he was not allowed to serve the full term. A request was made to Norway to extradite him to Russia. In his homeland, Dacek was sentenced to 5 years in a minimum security penal colony for robberies against cell phone stores. I didn't like robbers since childhood, and that's why I choose the way of fair, open, recognized crime. The robbers are covering their faces, because they are cowards, but I made all my crimes openly. Interestingly, the term of imprisonment could have been much longer if the extradition request had included another crime, arson of a church. However, according to the norms of international law, a person extradited by a foreign state cannot be prosecuted for crimes not specified in the extradition request. While in detention, Dacek engaged in self-education, reading books and studying law in order to, he said, engage in human rights activities in the future. He was released from prison in 2016, but not for long. On the day of his release, he was detained for extremism, and 2 months later he became an accomplice in a kind of anti-horror raid in St. Petersburg and found himself back in the dock. In the course of the raid, Datsik, as part of an organized group, broke into an intimate services parlor, forced 9 girls to undress, and then took them naked to the police station. Red Tarzan didn't stop there, and committed another attack, soon receiving a new criminal proceeding and a prison sentence of 3.5 years, only in a high-security colony. The case was repeatedly postponed, and the court had to extend Datsik's detention. In early 2019, the fighter was released from custody due to serving his sentence. For the third time, Datsik went to prison for illegally crossing the border into Estonia in December 2019. The court sentenced him to 1 year in prison. Ginger Tarzan was released on parole before the end of his sentence. No promotion was willing to sign him. With such a track record, there was no reason to expect a return to the sport. But in just a year and a half, Datsik went from persona non grata to one of the main stars of Russian pop MMA. In 2019, Datsik participated in a running competition against Tarasov. I won't even comment on that shit, but you can watch that fight on YouTube. Datsik lost by disqualification. Next, his opponent was Kirsanov. Funny thing is that the referee for that fight was Tarasov, and in Datsik's corner was Zelimkhan Polyamyachik, who will be his opponent in the future. That was a mixed rules fight. Kirsanov was allowed to kick, but Datsik was only allowed to punch. Compared to April, when he came out against Tarasov, Datsik lost 20 to 30 kilograms and significantly improved his functional training. Ginger Tarzan was much superior to Kirsanov in size. Not as much as Tarasov, but his opponent looked much smaller. Datsik started pushing as soon as the fight started. The audience screamed for the fight to be stopped, so big was his advantage. But it was over in the third round. Vyacheslav hit a powerful overhand with a right that sent Kirsanov to the canvas. Andre got up, but he could not continue the fight. In December, Datsik fought Jerome Labanner. Labanner is a true K1 legend. Both fighters were hoping for a lucky punch. Datsik wasn't working with series, and his cardio was under question too. And Jerome couldn't count on Rumble because of age. Even though Vyacheslav dropped Jerome in the first round, he got knocked out by a liver kick in the second. The fight was super respectful. No trash talk, no dirty moves, only clean fighting. In 2021, Datsik fought Tyson. What the fuck? Not Iron Mike, just Tyson Dijon. It's impossible to find his fights on open platforms. It's just known that he talks Russian perfectly, and that he holds the Cameroon Boxing Championship belt. The beginning of the fight showed that Dijon had basic boxing skills. The Cameroonian moved a lot and tried to combine, which is logical given such an obvious deficit in size. Tyson tried to hide from the sometimes really strange, but always aggressive attacks of Datsik, hoping that he would soon run out of strength. But Vyacheslav was really well prepared functionally, and this allowed him to chase his opponent for 3.5 rounds. And though by the fourth round Datsik for sure was losing to Dijon on the judges' cards, he continued to hold his line and brought the fight to victory. In the fourth part of the fight, Vyacheslav pinned Dijon near the ropes and performed not the most beautiful but effective combination, which made his rival fall out of the ring. Tyson would not continue the fight, and the referee awarded Datsik the victory by knockout in the fourth round. Then, in August, Datsik would overdrive his opponent whose nickname was T-34. From the first seconds, Albayev went forward, and Datsik liked it. He was happy to get into the fray. At first, you could feel the difference in speed. Albayev was clearly faster. It should be said here that T-34 is 16 years younger than Ginger Tarzan. However, Vyacheslav was not embarrassed by this. He continued to move forward. The exchanges were tight, and Datsik looked better in them, hitting more often and more accurately. In the second round, he went forward again. If in the first 2 minutes Daniel was taking the fight, then here he began to retreat. But at the same time, he did not forget to respond, sometimes harshly. On the equator of the fight, the rivals slowed down a lot. Datsik looked fresher and, in spite of his fatigue, continued to attack. Albayev snapped back and still missed more often. The 40-year-old Datsik surprisingly found the strength for the third round. Result? Datsik won by unanimous decision. In September, Tarzan fought British Randy Randane. First, he knocked the Brit down, and then cracked him in the chin again. Randy's corner threw in the towel. Tarzan's next opponent became Ravaz Vrulashvili. At the very beginning, Ravaz opened his karate. He began to punch straight punches from a long distance, and tried to cut circles around his opponent, each time leaving the firing line after his attacks. He did the right thing, but it did not last long. And in the second round, he decided to fight Vyacheslav, but he could not shake him, but accidentally hit the tumbler in his head, enabling berserk mode, and began to suffer. By the end of the second, he was already lying on the mat, knocked out. And in the third one, Datsik was outright ripping him to shreds, until his impressive seconds threw out the white flag to save him from total annihilation. 2022 opened for Datsik with a fight against Zelimkhan Poyomyachik. From the first second, Zelimkhan set the tone, moving well and stinging. He was also doing good counterpunching. The Slava was becoming angry with every punch, but it didn't convert into a knockdown from him, and he lost. That was more show than fight. Datsik was overweighting his opponent again. The fight was by boxing rules, 3 rounds by 2 minutes. But in fact, they boxed for nearly 4 minutes. Zelimkhan fell down 8 times to prevent Vyacheslav's attacks. Also, he lost his mouth guard 4 times. And in one of the episodes, he even told the referee, "Let my team wash the mouth guard." Crazy to think, what does the guys who dedicated their whole lives to boxing when they see such fights and pays? Deciding to get over every single Russian promotion, Datsik performs at Pravda FC. His opponent was glory champion Brazilian master Cavallari. Tarzan got his opponent knocked out by his co-host right overhand. Cavallari couldn't do anything. On July 8th, Datsik's opponent was UFC's own Antonio Silva. You can't watch recent Silva without tears knowing his background, especially his rumble with Mark Hunt. The last Silva's notable win was in 2013, when he knocked out Overeem. After that, he lost 10 fights out of 11. In the first round, Datsik was beating the Brazilian up and knocked him down with the bell, and he finished the job in the start of the second. Antonio poorly walked to his corner. The next scheduled fight at the time of video recording for Tarzan should be Emelianenko.
Я не пью, я не пью, я не пью.
Datsik is an example of the fact that any thug can become a star in MMA. But I don't judge him. I'm just a channel owner. The fact that this video exists shows the demand for such heroes. Rather than watching normal content, people will watch videos like Big Guy Beat Dagestani, or That Night Usyk Destroyed Golovkin. Anyway, whoever goes in the ring deserves respect. Not every person has the balls to do it. I was fighting for myself and for Russia. Only jerks fight for money. We fight for joy. I was born a warrior, and I will die as a warrior.